And so I'm really into not this or that, it's this and that. It's always both of them. So we've had some conversations to try to create structure, but they've been unstructured. So unstructured conversations about creating structure, which is exactly the way I think it should be. It's we need something, but we don't need too much. What's too much? We don't know yet, but let's figure it out.
David, why don't you tell everybody about your background?
Well, in order to keep this short, but my background is actually pretty extensive, and sometimes when people hear that extensive means all kinds of different things. I've moved a lot. I've moved a lot. So I was born in Seattle, Washington, and I now live in the Atlanta area, and I've had 39 addresses.
Whoa.
Since I was born. And I think matter of fact, every now and then I'll go back and check. And I say that because while it sounds like a lot, it didn't seem like a lot until I stopped. I wasn't in the military, so I was in the fire rescue service for a bunch of years. But just, when I was a kid, we moved around a bit. I'm the eldest of 7. And we just seemed to move around a bit. And as I became an adult, I found myself doing the same thing, but I finally settled. So yeah, but I do, I believe I almost am, when people ask me what I am and who I am and my background, it's all a safety conversation for me. Not one that I necessarily chose, but one that almost chose me. I actually, I witnessed my first colleague dying on the job when I was 23. And since that time, there are 30 people that I worked with in some capacity that either got killed at work or died from something they were exposed to at work. And so my conversations about safety tend to be a little bit, they may come across as a little overly passionate, but I've been to a handful of funerals for, of coworkers, and I've seen other circumstances. And I tend to take it kind of serious. I don't take myself all that serious all the time, but I do take the conversation about safety pretty serious. So, and now I find myself having conversations with people about the part of safety that doesn't get discussed as much, the psychological side of safety. So I mean, and there's more I could talk about, but I'm sure you probably have other questions. So
Yeah, no, well, thanks for the background. And yeah, I mean, it's so unfortunate how many of us we've been, my background's more on the construction side, but similar, you can't think of a company or a project where there wasn't a fatality or a serious incident. And it's disheartening, but we're here trying to make a dent in those statistics moving forward. So when we approached you about the Safeopedia community and becoming a founding member, I think you were pretty enthusiastic about signing up. What got you interested?
My first thing is that I like new stuff. I do. I'm not a student of history. I learn history because other people are interested in it. I'm not really interested in it. Really. I matter of fact, I don't even believe some people will say if you don't know your history, you're doing to repeat it. If you know your history, sometimes you're going to repeat it because you repeat the stuff that you like, the stuff that works for you. The stuff that doesn't, of course you don't repeat it. So, but I've again, since I was a kid, I was really interested. So I grew up, I'm a Star Trek fan, and enjoy science fiction, and thought I wanted to be an astronaut for a while when I was a kid and all that type of thing. Until I figured out that they have to, kind of be stuck in a little capsule for weeks at a time and go like, maybe not. Anyway, I'm really interested in the future, which makes me, really subject to new ideas, because I'm willing to try a new idea in a heartbeat. Uh, the worst the worst thing about new ideas is that maybe it doesn't work, but
Right.
a lot of them actually do. A lot of them
Yeah.
actually do. So I'm always interested in new things. And the other thing about new things that I like is we always have the opportunity in a new thing to do it in a way that works for us, as opposed to trying to take an old thing and make it fit us. And so I found myself being involved in a lot of new things, many of them safety related. New groups will start, I join up, and there may come a time down the road when I'm not as interested, but I feel like it's gotten started, it's going the direction it needs to go. And so again, it was pretty easy, safety related thing that's going to be new, I'm in
Cool.
because I feel like, if you get in early, you have the opportunity to perhaps, steer the conversation in a direction that's going to be consistent with your values and consistent with what you think is important. So yeah, like I said, it was easy. And you guys
Yeah.
seem like nice guys.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I resemble that remark. The new, the shiny objects, the
Yeah.
lights and new trails. That's exciting to me.
Mhm.
So what do you hope? We've had a few meetings. We're going for a couple of months now with the founding members. What do you hope to accomplish as a founding member for the Safeopedia community?
Well, again, I'm interested in seeing, especially a couple of of my values show up in the conversations that we had, and one of them is this: I'm really interested in things that are open, and and what everything that means. Openness is chaotic sometimes. Openness is sometimes nerve-wracking for certain people. But I like open. I like, just the possibilities. And so I enjoy the conversations that are starting literally from scratch. And we don't have to go, well, let's do it like they do it. When you're creating something from scratch, you create it based on the people who are involved in it. That's it. And the only model is, what do we want it to be? And because I've often, I've often been in rooms where people, particularly was in fire rescue service. One of the mottos is 200 years of tradition unimpeded by progress. I actually heard people say that, and people get into this thing about, well, we've always done it that way, and I, even if I've always done something a particular way, I tend to be interested. Well, maybe we could do that better. Maybe if this is fun, there's more fun up there. So, I'm really interested in seeing the community be this really open community, open to the extent that, not all the rules are set, not everything is dictated, not everything. But on the other hand, there are some, there's some kind of parameters. I mean, I believe that the community is about people who are not only safety professionals, but people who are safety interested, and don't necessarily have to be a professional, but have to be interested. So safety is the unifying conversation. As long as it's a conversation about safety, we should be talking about it. What we do about it, maybe nothing, other than have the conversation. I mean, I don't see this as the band of do-gooders that's going to necessarily change the world either. Because it doesn't necessarily work. you know, but change does happen by people who first recognize that there's a need, and I also heard once that all things are created twice. So the first place they're created is in your head. So once it's created in our head, can we have a conversation about it to see is that actually doable? Is it doable for a lot of people, for a few people? So I really see it as this opportunity for, again, safety interested people to get together and have conversation about safety, have discussions about safety related topics, and when necessary, to have conversation about each other and what's going on with us and how can we share and support one another. So all those are kind of, again, that whole concept of openness is to me really, really important.
Yeah, that's great. And you kind of touched on it. just the openness, and we're not trying to recreate or improve upon. We have a bit of a blank slate. So is there a kind of a favorite, moment or experience or conversation that we've had as founding members that you can point to? Or?
Well, yeah, I know we've had a couple of conversations even about, about values and about kind of setting up some structure. Because again, as I've had more birthdays, I've become less interested in binary choices. And so I'm really into not this or that, it's this and that. It's always both of them. So we've had some conversations to try to create structure, but they've been unstructured. So unstructured conversations about creating structure, which is exactly the way I think it should be. We need something, but we don't need too much. What's too much? We don't know yet, but let's figure it out. And it also seems that we continue to still be open to, this is for right now because you got to get started someplace.
Right.
But it will evolve.
Yeah.
Because as others join the community, they bring their views, perspectives, ideas, thoughts about the topic. So, and back to my favorite topic these days, psychological health and safety gets built by the individuals that are in the room.
Right.
As a matter of fact, the definition, at least in my research, is a psychosocial hazard is about something that's perceived or experienced by the person. There's a list, there's an international standard that has a list, but that list is not exhaustive because we are all different. And so that whole, again, back to the reason that openness is so important, because I don't know what's safe for everybody. I know what's safe for me. I'm really convinced that I do a great job. Everything I do for me is perfect. And that's where it stops. It's just not perfect for anybody else. It just works for me, which is why I do it. Going back to, I keep doing things that work for me. They just don't work for everybody else. And so it's about the conversation. It's about, so again, creating this structure is really important, that it be a structured, unstructured kind of at the same time, that it's open. Gotta have some guardrails, because we don't want to end up with anarchy, of course.
Right.
But just that kind of delicate balance. So I think it will kind of be a little here, a little there. We'll kind of, and it's, again, I think it might be slightly uncomfortable for some people because they're used to being in these very rigid, and safety can sometimes do that, can become very rigid and regimented, and but the regimentation actually is unsafe for some people. So I just like the discussions that we're having, that everything seems to be open for interpretation and open for new ideas, no matter how far we get down the road. It's like, well, hold it, we hadn't considered that. And let's figure out if, now again, it doesn't all fit. And that's okay that it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
But I like the idea that, we continue to be open to, the fact that we don't know everything. We don't know everybody. We don't know every situation. And safety is a unifying concept, but how we get there is open.
Yeah, and I love the the fact, the founding members just sort of jumped in and took ownership. We came with a bit of an agenda, and we said, hey, let's talk about code of conduct. And you guys were like, no, we need to talk about core values to start with. And
yes.
And we dug really deep. We spent much more time than anticipated, but I think that foundation was really important. And to my surprise, the code of conduct, I think, to your comment, was a lot looser, I'll say, than maybe I first envisioned, because again, you guys as founding members said, hey, we need the latitude to see how people are going to behave, rather than try to be prescriptive in how they should
absolutely. Again, another of these observations about safety in general is that there are a lot of folks. It's amazing to me how organizations have conversations about safety, but don't really have any expertise in it.
Right.
So it's kind of like a buzzword for people. And I see some people use it as a form of restriction. Oh, we can't do it because it's a safety issue. Said who? Who? Really? So identify for me what the hazard is. And then when you start having those conversations with people, sometimes it helps folks figure out that really, is this really unsafe what we're doing? Unsafe from what? I mean, so I like the fact that we're practicing this kind of open approach that says, say, and again, I talk about this in, some of the presentations I do. Safety is an activity. Safe is a feeling. And I'm going for the feeling.
Right.
To be quite honest, because you can do a lot of things that's, a lot of practices and policies and blah, 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 but they don't feel safe. So really, what value are they? If they don't result in this, they don't do anything for me. A guy I like quoting, his name is Dr. Myron Golden, suggests that people do things for one reason and one reason only, because they feel like it.
Right.
And when you feel like it, you do the things that you feel like doing. So, I don't want to presuppose that I understand what's motivating people. And ultimately, it doesn't really matter. It matters that they either do or don't do. And so even when we're having conversations about safety, I think they should be, it's okay if they're a little amorphous and all that. Does it feel safe to us? And if it feels safe, keep doing that.
Right.
And what we're doing may change, but does it feel safe? Let's do more of that. Do more.
Yeah, so we've got a great group of founding members. Of course, we want to add to the community at Safety Connect. This year, we're going to open up the community and invite others to join. So why should others join the Safeopedia community?
If you are a person who is safety interested, the Safeopedia community is probably a place you want to hang out. And that's really it. Yeah, are you safety interested, and do you want to hang out with other safety interested people? You notice I didn't say, are you a safety professional? I didn't say if you're in the safety business. Are you in the business of safety? It doesn't, are you safety interested? Because we're going to find, you're going to find people just like you who are safety interested that are going to come at this from all kinds of different, approaches and views and strategies and all that type of thing. And that's encouraged. And again, it is not like the typical safety related organizations, at least that I've been in, and some I'm still in, that are about a particular group. You have to be this particular group and have this thing. And sometimes we get so focused on the thing that we forget about the safety interest part. So we end up focusing on the credentialing and, policies and all this, which is important, but we kind of lose the original reason. And so this is, at least I think this is a place where people, again, who are safety interested can come and can kind of be around other safety interested people and not feel weird.
Yeah.
And not feel like, and not feel like that they're not accepted, and not feel like they don't have a contribution. So that's I would think, so those who, and most, at least not most, a lot of the folks that I've met that are safety interested, they come to it for a very particular reason. And often the reason is some typically some negative consequence of safety, some trauma, something that they've seen, something that really got them, really focused that we've got to be different. And I also think that this has the opportunity to be somewhat therapeutic for those of us who have seen, things that haven't gone as well. This can be kind of therapy. So we're not judging people. We're not, it's you're safety interested. We've got a variety of different things that you could do. Pick something. Pick something.
Yeah.
Or if you just want to hang out every now and then, I mean, that's also okay. It's that whole, so I think it's not only going to be a good community for safety interested people, I think it could be just a interesting community for people.
Yeah, well, I love to hear that, because I mean, we really, we don't have any, and the founding members included, have any kind of vested interest in shaping the community one way or the other. Like I mentioned earlier, I mean, you guys were clear in saying, hey, we'll have guardrails, but let's make sure that road is really wide so we can
Yes.
travel
Yes.
and figure out what direction we want to go in. So that's one of the things I'm most excited about, is seeing new community members come in and push the boundaries, or start conversations in different directions. And again, like you said, feel comfortable asking those questions. And that's what the community is for, is to have
Yeah.
that sense of belonging, sense of safety, to come in and ask questions and challenge ideas, and let's see where it goes, because we
Yes.
don't know, we don't have
Yes.
any kind of end state in mind,
Yes.
right? So,
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And the other value I believe that type of approach has is, uh, a lot of organizations die. The organization dies because they're too rigid. They were started by two people, five, whatever it is. They were started by a particular group who, instead of allowing the community to grow, they try to make more people just like them.
right.
Think like us, do like us. This is the rules. You have to do it this way. And that just makes it difficult. And particularly, if you're the early adopter or the founding member of something, and you spend all your time trying to set up things that are good for me, for example, then that locks out people who it may not be good for them.
Right.
And again, this conversation, we're creating this community that's for it. Who is it for? Safety interested people. What does that mean? We don't know yet. What does that mean to you?
Yeah,
To me, it
exactly.
means this. To me, but again, I feel safe in it because it's open, and because I can be a part, because I can talk to people, because I can share ideas, and you know, I may have more conversation with a handful of people than others, and that's actually okay as well. But it's all a part of the community, and it's encouraged and it's built to be this way, not built as you talked about earlier, with this really strict set of things that we have to do. And I'll say this is, the country that I live in had has a constitution, and the Constitution was written a few hundred years ago, and it didn't anticipate a lot of the things that go on today. But we try to make it. We try to say that it did, and of course it didn't. They didn't know anything about computers, none of that kind of stuff. And and I think a lot of institutions, organizations, they do that. They get so locked in on what the founders wanted, what the founders thought was important, that they didn't think about, the founders are just the founders. That's all. We don't have some kind of cosmic, intelligence that other people don't have. We just happen to get here first. That's all it means. Just means, and so again, I really, it's exciting to be able to be one of those people, but at the same time go, I happen to get here first. There's some things that I know, and there's a ton of stuff that I don't. And I want to see a community that acknowledges that. It's set up, it expects that there's things that we don't know, that we hadn't quite considered, and will evolve over time. And now, on the other hand, that also means the community isn't for everybody.
Right.
It's we won't have 8 billion people in the community. It's
No.
not going to happen, because not everybody is comfortable enough in their own skin to have something be this amorphous.
Right.
That's just not for that make them bad people. It just says they're not really comfortable. They need rigid kinds of thing. Great. If you need really rigid bunch of rules, there's communities out there who will be glad to have you. But we're glad to have you. Just don't bring that here.
Right.
That's the part we don't want the rigid. We don't really want, at least the current group of, the founding members don't. It might get that way at some point in the future. I will probably have to find something else to do at that point, but I'm even open to that piece, that if it's for somehow, taken over by a group of really rigid people, and good, it wouldn't be good for me,
No.
but
Yeah.
whatever's good for the community, I think we should do.
Great. Well, thanks for jumping on today and talking about the community. Well, you're speaking at Safety Connect, so we're excited to have you there, and we'll be talking about the community throughout the conference as well. So definitely look for Dr. David Daniels' presentation. Get registered for that session, and we're encouraging people to reach out and ask questions if they have any questions ahead of joining, but definitely look forward to seeing you at the conference.
Absolutely. Look forward to being there.
All right. Thanks, David.
Mhm.